Hi, my name is Jonah Jacobs. Thank you for joining us. The first question is, what compelled you to run for city council, and what are your core campaign issues?
Well, thank you. My name is Jack Eaton. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to meet with this class under these circumstances. I think it's especially important that we maintain our distance and we do everything we can to curb the spread of this virus. The question that we were presented was, what compelled you to run? I first ran for city council in 2010. I first won a council race in 2013. I've been reelected in 2015 and 2017. And I wouldn't say that I was compelled to run. It was more that I had helped other candidates and they kind of dragged me into this arena. I believe that residents and voters in Ann Arbor deserve to be listened to, and that the duty of an elected official is to weigh all of the diverse opinions that people have and to do the best to address the concerns of everyone, not just their supporters. My core issues have always been the environment, labor and employment issues, and civil rights. I am really proud to have received the Sierra Club's endorsement in the past. The Huron Valley Area Labor Federation has repeatedly endorsed me. I am very pleased to have worked with local civil rights groups to advocate our police oversight commission. The issues that we are facing most imminently right now are the Gelman plume and the impact that might have on our drinking water. Climate action it's really essential that we as a local government take this task upon ourselves because the federal government is failing. And finally, affordable housing is a near crisis. A person who merely makes even our living wage is hard pressed to live and afford a rent in this town. So these are my big issues. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maria, and the question is, do you support the construction of more residential units and greater access to affordable housing? If so, how do you suggest dealing with social and political barriers to this goal, opposition within the city council, and from NIMBY groups?
So yes, I do support addressing affordability. And I don't think that you address affordability merely by supplying just any kind of housing. You really have to drive the process so that the buildings that we build are the ones that we need. When we removed all the barriers to development in our downtown area without making any requirements of the developers, what we ended up with was high-priced luxury apartments. We have since revisited the zoning in those areas and required that tall buildings and dense buildings include some affordable units and some other considerations. This is an important aspect of our affordability problem, is that if you just remove all barriers to development, what you get is the highest best use, which is the most profitable use. If you limit what can be built, but allow something more extensive in exchange for premiums such as affordability or environmental concerns, you get the buildings that you want. In Michigan, it's illegal for us to require those things, so we have to use them as an incentive. Inclusionary zoning is prohibited throughout Michigan. So as we look to develop density in other areas of our town besides downtown, we're going to have to look at finding ways to incentivize
30 seconds.
Thank you so much. Incentivizing the kind of building that we want to see built.
Hello, my name is Max. Thank you to all of you for your time. So my group's question is about the city budget. So sales tax, we know that sales tax revenue from state revenue sharing makes a large contribution to the city budget, but currently sales tax revenue is projected to be well down from last year. And furthermore, the city's revenue is still recovering from the Great Recession due to the Headley Amendment. And so with revenue streams declining, we are wondering how you all plan on maintaining a healthy city budget.
Well, thank you. This is an important question because we already know that the state sales tax and other revenue sources are being hit dramatically by this recession. This means that we, as a city, will receive less revenue sharing from the state. Our local revenues will also be taking a big hit. And so it really is important to have somebody who understands the whole budget. I've been through 7 budget processes so far. And it's important that you understand what's in the budget broadly and are able to weigh priorities and set priorities for spending when we have less revenue. John Hieftje was mayor in just prior to our last recession, and he took the actions that were necessary in advance of the downturn. And so we were fairly well set when we hit the 2008 recession. Right now, our newly appointed interim city administrator has been our CFO for the last 17 years. And so we are in very capable hands when it comes to balancing our financial struggles and challenges. I would mention that
30 seconds.
Thank you. That growing the tax base isn't just a free money. When you grow the tax base by adding residential properties, you add citizens who have to be serviced with police and plumbing and all of the other things that we do. I will say that I will strongly oppose any new millages because of the impact that has on people who are struggling to stay in their homes under our current tax burden. So we're going to have to look at our spending and prioritize what we spend.
Hello, hope you can all hear me. My name is Anna Urso. Many of you have mentioned issues surrounding the climate crisis. With Ann Arbor's recent unveiling of a plan to go carbon neutral by 2030, what policies would you support to keep Ann Arbor on this carbon neutrality path?
Thank you. I'm proud that I offered the amendment at City Council to move our goal of reaching carbon neutrality from the originally proposed 2035 to 2030, and that my amendment was unanimously adopted, and we're moving forward on that urgency. You can't declare a climate emergency and put it off for 15 years. So I'm proud that I was the sponsor of the amendment that moves it up, that actually recognizes the urgency of what we're doing. In the past, I have opposed some of the funding that has been requested by our Office of Sustainability and Innovation. For instance, I opposed spending money on sending a staff member to an out-of-town conference 1 month before he retired. I opposed very large raises for OSI staff, but I did support spending $200,000 to make one of our public housing projects more efficient, energy efficient. It's important to look at the details and not just proclaim that somebody is against climate action because they do look at the details. This new plan that we're looking at
30 seconds.
Actually shows us spending millions of dollars a year over the next 6 years, and then suddenly realizing some results 6 years from now. Those results are based on the hope that the state will change legislation that will let us aggregate our electricity purchases from green sources, and our hope that our bus systems will have completely converted to electric buses. I think that that's hopeful thinking. So spending millions and millions of dollars.
Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
For our group, we were wondering, so COVID-19 has obviously disrupted various aspects of both people's personal lives and how cities operate. So as a result of these disruptions, have you shifted any of your previously held opinions on how cities address issues such as eviction, affordable housing, or access to voting? For voting specifically, if COVID-19 continues to be a problem in August and November, how would you address that? Thank you.
Thank you. First, I want to address something that the good doctor mentioned, which is that she believes that I have not done enough to address the issue of $15 an hour minimum wage. I want to point out that that is prohibited by state law. A local municipality can't do that. However, my service on the Policy Agenda Committee has identified this as one of our lobbying priorities. So we're lobbying in Lansing to try to change that law. Then to the subject of the question, the disruption from the COVID-19 virus has really changed everything that we look at as a city government. Much of what we're doing right now is we're asking staff to identify the scope of our authority to actually reach out and do things. We have limited authority to prevent it, but we have worked with our partners, including local judges, and reached an agreement that no one will be evicted, and if anyone attempts an eviction for economic reasons, that just will not be processed through the court. So we're talking about really what is the scope of authority for a city government during a pandemic, and we are doing as much as we can. We're adding money into the housing.
30 seconds.
Thank you. And I would point out that I agree with much of what Dan said about the virus exposing our social problems, and that we shouldn't just accept going back to what had been done before. I would also point out that in Michigan, it's legal for everyone to vote absentee, and so if it looks like this virus is going to impact your ability to vote in Michigan, you should apply for an absentee ballot. Thank you much.
Hi there. Our question is, even with the most optimistic COVID-19 models, they don't predict a return to normalcy anytime soon. Until there's a vaccine and or increased levels of testing, we can expect some kind of level of disruption in our daily lives. And as you campaign, and if you're elected, how do you plan to regularly connect with community members to make sure that their voices are heard, especially if social distancing extends into any part of the term?
Thank you. That's a good question. Since the stay-at-home order from the governor, I have become ever so much more familiar with video conferencing such as this. We do hold meetings with residents, with staff, and with other council members through video conferencing. And to the extent that works, we need to tap into the technology that's available. I would point out that there are some things that come before us that really need a more robust public outreach process, such as the transit-oriented development proposal that really needs a good public hearing where people can show up and actually express their opinions. And we don't get that kind of turnout through video conferencing. And so we have put off a couple of items that are on our to-do list just simply because this disruption has had a real impact on our ability to interact with our residents. I think that as people get accustomed to having a happy hour or a family gathering through Zoom or other platforms, we're going to find that they are more comfortable connecting with their elected leaders through these technologies. But until that really happens, I believe that we have to be careful not to just assume that people don't want to speak if they don't show up in a video conference.